COP28, welcome to our session today for Race to Transition Asia event series. I am Penny. I am delighted to be here to share with you for this session. First of all, let me introduce to everyone our speaker today. And we have Ms. Li Xiaoping, Dr. Li Xiaoping, Vice Director, Department of Science, Technology and Standards from China Academy of Building Research. Mr. Yu Shenhong, Deputy General Manager, Sustainable Urban Renewal from Keppel Land, and Mr. Wang Zhifeng, Ms. Chen Dandan, Ms. Wang Lingfei, responsible for mainland China sustainable development from ARP. In addition, we also have Mr. Desmond Ho, Associate Director from ARP, as well as our strategic partner, General Manager Dr. Kong. Thank you, everyone, for coming to our event today. Now, let's welcome Mr. Penny Zhang to give us a opening remark from ARP. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, moderator. I would like to welcome everyone. My name is Penny Zhang from ARP. I would like to welcome you all to our Shanghai office and to participate in today's seminar. I'm very pleased today to be able to discuss with our panelists today on the topic of a circular economy. The 28th United Nations COP meeting will be held in Dubai this week in United Arab Emirates. And for ARP, we have always actively participated in the UN COP conference. And same as previous years, prior to the hosting of a COP conference, we have also organized a series of events on the theme of towards a climate transition in various Asian cities. For instance, we have climate actions as well as water treatment. In addition, a lot of nature-based designs, as well as what we are talking about today, and circular economy. Actually, within ARP, and we often talk about sustainable development as our core development, and we talk about sustainability is everything we do. This is our motto. So we all know that actually carbon reduction as well as mitigating climate change has become a very common endeavor for all industries. And in our construction sector, it is very important to establish a circular economy model so that this is very important to help us achieve our carbon reduction targets. In the meantime, to help us to really cope with the impacts coming from climate change. In both the international as well as mainland China and our in terms of the policy changes, and we can see that we are very actively looking for active investment opportunities and mechanism to jointly promote the development of a circular economy in the world to help us realize the dual carbon goals. Today, we have invited many experts from the industry to share with us their insights and experience on topics such as industry technical standards, sustainable asset management, etc. And we also hope that we all of you together can pay more attention to this important topic of circular economy. So now, once again, I would like to thank everyone for coming, and I'll hand over the time to our experts to talk to us about the various topics on sustainability and circular economy. Thank you very much. Thank you, Penny, for your introduction. As Mr. Zhang has said, for today's topic, and even if it's on circular constructions and circular buildings. And we are also looking at it from various different perspectives and listening to the experts on sharing with us. First of all, let's welcome Dr. Li to talk to us about green and low carbon development needs as well as the key technical standards in the building sector. Welcome, Dr. Li.
For the planet. I look forward to seeing what the future of transport will be.
There's no sound coming from the main site and the video has frozen. Okay, it's back on. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Arp, for your invitation and to give me this opportunity to be here to share with you. So I will talk to you about some of the policies from the national level and talk to you about some of our thinkings in this regard. And the topic here is mainly around the policies and as well as standard setting and for the 14th five-year plan and in terms of the action work and research that we have done so that this could help us to further understand the better. And I believe that these are areas that you know very well. And overall speaking, in construction, we have a lot of potential for green development. And in terms of national policies from 2020 and 2021, we have built this system and we look around this system. Later on, from 2022 to this year, we can see that all of these policies, and if you look at it from 1 plus N under this whole system, so in terms of the macro development, we have some new development and a requirement, and for 2030, and we will reach carbon peak, and 2016 to realize carbon neutral. But how do we realize this? Of course, we need to carry out the relevant work, and we also have some policies, and I'd like to talk to you about these policies. In terms of carbon peak and carbon neutrality, and because this is all for the target of 2030 and 2060. So how do we realize this? Actually, for green, we believe that this is more on the system level. However, for carbon, this is something that can be quantified. So the important thing is that going forward, in terms of the carbon issue and how do we merge that with our calculation and calibration system. And basically, we need to look at the 10 major factors and including for the construction, railways, transport, and specific development zones, etc. And for all these companies and for their different scenarios to have the construction standards so that we can establish a very good foundation and specific work targets for us in the meantime to continue on the discussion. And we also have a long-term system and which is for improving the capability of measurement of enterprises. And in this regard, basically for enterprises and for calibration capacity building is very important. And for so many years, in terms of energy transition and energy consumption and in terms of emission. So how do we calculate and calibrate this? We have a measurement and a guidance paper and to help us with the various specific areas. And in addition, when we go into 2023, so for the NDRC, and it has launched two important paper, and one is currently, which is about the double control of energy consumption and to carbon emission double control, and this is a gradual transition in terms of the macro perspective, and it has given us more opportunities. Generally speaking, if we have take a look at the carbon emission per capita, and in terms of the future development, it still needs a very fast development. In terms of now, and how do we realize double carbon commitment, and this in terms of what we do, and we will gradually move on to carbon dual control, and in the other area, which is electricity system. This is about building a new electricity system. And under this new system, of course, we will have more and more new renewable energy. And this will be about the renewable energy trend. So, in this general adjustment background, for the construction sector, what are we doing to embrace this new area of work, and how do we embrace the future opportunities? And I think that this is something we could think about. In addition, in October, so for the Ministry of Environment, and they have promulgated a measurement on the greenhouse gas emission and its trading thereof. So at the moment, for construction, has not yet been included in the mandatory reduction of greenhouse gas. And going forward, it's possible that for the smaller scale, and can be included in the voluntary reduction mechanism. So there are opportunities for us to fight for. In addition, we also look at the relevant work. For instance, NDRC has also just mentioned this, and for certain provinces and for certain development zones, and in terms of pilot zones, and those are some of the work and the current plans, and generally speaking, for our country, and for the greening work, and we continue to have new policies come out. In the meantime, we also look at the requirements from the Ministry of Urbanization as well as housing, and they are requesting us to build better housing. What does that mean? Basically, what it means, actually, for this week, we have heard about this. And when we talk about good houses, it means that it's a green, it's a low carbon, it's a safe, and it's smart. So not only that, it gives us a very good feeling. In the meantime, it also makes sure that it provides the whole society with a very good and safe environment. And overall speaking, looking at the overall requirement put forward by the building of urban areas as well as county level, and what are the areas of work that we can do. And this part is talking about the standard. So first of all, some of this is work done by us, and on the other hand, also looking at our event today for sustainability. And let's take a look at what the other parties are doing. And on this slide, you can see that these are some of the work that we are doing. Generally, there are 8 units, which is on safety and living standard, urban regeneration, and county level building, etc. And generally speaking, I have listed out all the standards, and you can see that we have the ultimate requirement, and as well as the national requirement, and the association requirement, and the requirements for companies. And we encourage companies to have innovation. And so we have some mandatory requirements, and some of them are voluntary requirements. And basically, for each of the sector, we have a very complete requirement system. So on this slide, you can see that these are some of the requirements in relation to green and low carbon for your consideration. The first one is that we carry out consultancy work, and this is also a standard that we pay attention to. And this is the first time from a regulation perspective, and it has that we are now going into the dual control for energy consumption and carbon emission, and we have a quantifiable indicator. And in addition, we will also have some of the other national standards, and this has given a general bottom line requirement. And for instance, we also have some differentiated requirement.
And also for the new buildings, how we use renewable energy and using the solar panels. These are all mandatory requirements. The second one is a near zero energy consumption building technical guidelines and standards. Shanghai has its local version, and so does other cities and places. We would like to, through these documents, to further improve energy saving. And starting from 2019, we've been adopting these standards, and it's been 4 years. And it has played a very important role in terms of demonstrating and piloting. In Xiong'an and Beijing, we know there are some pilot construction requirements in Shanghai, and these standards are very important supporting those pilots. And this one is a zero carbon building technology standard. And in October, this has just been opened for comments. And once the dual carbon goal were proposed, and this standard was initiated from 2021, and in many of the conferences, this standard has been introduced to the audiences about the thinking behind, zero carbon and building. What are going to be the requirements? Low carbon, near zero carbon, and the levels as well as the technical requirements. We have these detailed guidelines. Going forward, this year or earlier next year, we will be able to maybe publish this standard. And this one is under this standard for we also cover communities as well as industrial campuses for these standards. And this one is the fourth standard. It is a green building assessment standard, and this is a 2019 version. But over the past few years, as more adjustments are made to the whole standard system, and this housing administration has launched these revision. And for this revision, we need to, first of all, stay more aligned with the relevant requirements, and also to make some optimizations to the standard. And also, very importantly, for this standard, we would like to respond better to the dual carbon goals. In here, because right now we do not have the exact quantifying requirements, but it is made very clear of how to calculate. Sorry, we've lost the sound now. The sound is breaking up. For this standard, for the carbon calculation and the index counting, this standard will be crucial. And this standard we would like to publish also this year. And in September, we have already passed the review of their revisions. And these standards are the standards that we've been working on in this area, low carbon, energy saving, etc., under our research academy. And also with zero carbon, not just in the building sector, but also the construction materials and equipment machines, those are included as well. Here, on the national level, we are also now collecting comments and opinions for the building materials, equipment. We also would have to have a clear standards to adopt these low carbon and green approaches. And this one is the building carbon emission accounting standard. And this would like to reflect some more local carbon emission factors and local characteristics. And this is public information online, and the compilation work started from October. Also, the zero carbon assessment standards, as well as the building carbon emission calculation standard. Apart from these, we also have some association standard, which we will cover hospitals, communities, and campuses. we would like to build a very comprehensive and complete system, but at the same time, we would like to maintain our accounting standard and to make sure we reach to a certain level of consistency, also reflecting the real application of different scenarios. These are the two carbon neutral evaluation standards that are being used today. One is from the Tianjin Prospecting Design Association. The other is the China Engineer Construction Association. For the national standard, and these are some of the work that have been done in the local levels and by different industries. So right now, on the national level, local level, and also association level, the work we have been doing in the area of standards, as we are implementing the dual carbon targets, we are introducing more and more detailed standards and guidelines. And we would also be covering building materials and equipment and a lot of other areas. And we will be doing a lot more work in those areas. And the next part is on the technology development. We're already halfway through the 14th five-year plan, and this is the 14th Housing and Urban Rural Development Technology Development Plan, which is very important. During the 14th five-year plan, we would like to achieve the dual carbon goals and to successfully transition. And altogether, 9 key priorities, and it's very much surrounding around more livable spaces, low carbon, etc. And these are some very important projects that our research academy have to undertake. And some are on the urban territory, some are more on community levels. And we also have the zero carbon building specification research. From the urban and rural development direction, we would like to study, from a macro to even more detailed level, how we achieve low carbon development. But for the interest of time, I will not go into the details here, but I would like just to summarize. First, everything we work on is built on the carbon emission accounting, and we also need to have a whole process carbon reduction technology, and then we need to follow some principles. Like I mentioned earlier about the community level project, I was personally responsible for that project. The first one is to establishing the accounting methods. First, on the national and a provincial level, there is a accounting method, and then for different communities and projects, the methods can be very different. So what's very important is that when we do this project, we need to have a unified method, and the data we collect need to be of good quality, robust data. And also, we would like to build a method that can support the entire industry. And there are many relationships that we need to coordinate and balance. And we need to go from the national level, local level, community level, from the buildings to our day-to-day life, and how to do the accounting. We would like to build this matrix or a grid to satisfy different needs. And for sometimes for the accounting is more time-based, so there's a different approach, and which we pose different requirements on us. And the second one is a whole process carbon reduction. And but one thing very important is that for a city or urban areas, the planning part is very important. We need to do very good planning to deliver the goals, and we have this dual carbon goal, and then among different systems, and during the planning stage, we need to smooth out the interactions of different parties. And we also want to build a quantitative approach, and we want to optimize the integrated energies. I think there is a huge opportunities for us while doing this, and we want to really give full play to our strengths and advantages, and to achieve a economical and low carbon development. Um, and also, we would like to build a very comprehensive system. And thirdly, is more on the operation stage, how we deliver low carbon operation and maintenance. And there are many practices in this area. We have these. We combine the digital approach and with the smart maintenance. And thirdly is on the tool level. I will go through this very quickly because while we are implementing this, we need these tools to deliver the targets. So our team, we need maybe do some very complex accounting so that we will know roughly the future carbon levels. And so we want to develop a tool that is model based so we can very quickly compare, and so that we have a better judgment and preparation for the future maintenance. And the second one is we have these platform, and this is the community level comprehensive energy smart control platform. And the third one is during the proposal and the design stage. And for this stage, we would like to facilitate very rapid decision making. But right now, for this stage, we have very little information. But in the future, we would have built a lot of large data in this area, so it will can help us to make quicker decisions. And I think this will be very, very helpful and something new, because all the rest are more slowly built over time. For us, our organization will be in the building sector for many years, and we have experienced the slowdown of this industry, but we're going green and going smart, going sustainable. So although we do have a lot of challenges, but we also enjoy a lot of opportunities. So we would like us to join hand and work together and to build a bright future for this industry. Sorry that I went through my slides very quickly because I only have a limited time, but I look forward to have more exchanges with you offline. Thank you.
Okay, great. We thank you, Dr. Li, again, and thank her for coming all the way from Beijing to Shanghai and to give us this very comprehensive introduction. And she has talked to us about operation and the actual implementation. And now let's welcome our next speaker, and Mr. Yu Shenghong, and to give us a topic on sustainable asset management and operation for optimal future proofing of our urban environment. He is the Deputy General Manager, Sustainable Urban Renewal from Keppel-Land. Welcome, Dr. Yu. Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yu Shenghong, and I am from Keppel-Land. My colleague Jason Wang is also with me today. We are very honored to be here, and we look forward to having discussions with you later on. If you have more difficult questions, please direct it to Jason. And we are very honored that ARP has invited us to come and participate in this session. Very quick introduction. Myself, I'm from Singapore. I have worked in Singapore and China as well as the United States. This is the 14th year of my life in mainland China. About 20 years ago, and my first assignment was actually the Shanghai New Land, and I was very junior. I was only responsible for a very small part of that project, and I was very lucky that I have participated in many different projects, and I have, for instance, worked on resort projects, factories, as well as uh, work offices and various office buildings and designs and consultancy firms. At the moment, I work in sustainable urban renewal and to be responsible for the sustainable development of an enterprise. And I'd like to talk to you today about sustainable asset management and operations for optimal future proofing of our urban environment and how we would be able to actually push forward for more impacts. So for capital ourselves and in terms of sustainability and what contribution have we actually made. On this slide, you can see that this is reducing scope 1 and 2 emissions. This is our plan. Through energy saving as well as purchasing, for instance, green certificates, etc. And we make sure that we can achieve a net zero emission. Secondly, we are using high efficiency downforce fans and CTWMS, which is on the cooling tower water management system. And number three, chiller upgrading. Number four, piloting new innovations, for instance, a CO2 removal system. And fifthly, is we optimize our assets. For instance, in terms of energy efficiency, we can improve it by 20%. On this slide, you can see that starting from 2020, and we have dedicated ourselves to reduce our absolute scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emission by 100% by 2030 from a 2020 base year. So we are the first company in Asia which has dedicated ourselves to this goal. And, even that by 2030, for each per square meter of the scope 3 GHG emissions from the purchased goods and services will be further reduced by 20% per square meter by 2030 from a 2020 base year. We're very confident. Why so? Because we have all of our colleagues and partners with the same ideas working together with us from, for instance, decarbonization, digital and connectivity, supply, property and asset management, energy management, etc. But of course, it is very necessary that we need to work with all of you who have a very rich experience in this industry and to collaborate. You can see that for Keppel's vision, we hope that we can become a global asset manager and operator in terms of infrastructure as well as telecommunication. We are all moving towards this sustainable development goal. And on this slide, you can see that this is our overall impact and influence. Because of our impact, and we also need to be more responsible to use our impact. We are in a position whereby in our each different region and each country can work together and create synergy. In the meantime, we also provide renewable energy, clean energy, as well as decarbonization solutions. There is one thing I would like to draw your attention to, and in Singapore Airport, we have our comprehensive energy management and operation services. In the meantime, we also provide. For instance, there is a grid system from Laos to Thailand and Malaysia to Singapore to help these citizens to enjoy clean energy. In the meantime, through treatment of solid waste and water and wastewater treatment to help cities become cleaner, we also provide sustainable and innovative city space solutions to realize in these markets in terms of our projects, and not only just in real estate but also in elderly as well, in elderly homes, as well as city development and management capabilities. Not only that, we provide services to them. In the meantime, we also provide them with green electronics and to support their data storage services to realize their carbon zero targets. In order to do so, we have established three platforms. We have our fund management platform, investment platform, and operation platform. Therefore, you can see that these are some of our very obvious unique advantages we enjoy. These are some of the highlight projects that we have in various cities. And of course, you can see in Suzhou industrial zone. Next year, I'm not sure whether you know about this. Next year will be about the 30th anniversary. We are also working with them currently on showcasing our achievements for the past 3 decades. These are some of notable projects, and one is Keppel Bay. This is in Singapore, and utilizing BCA's authorization, and they had authorized us and to work on this project, and it's Singapore's first net zero project, and the second one is working together with Hong Kong developer and Marina Bay Financial Center, and the third one is in Shanghai, and this is in Shanghai's city center. This is for Park Avenue present, and you can see that here not only we have the office buildings but also residential development. In the meantime, we are also working on building green and health and bring all these concepts together. In the meantime, together with smart lighting as well as air purification, and the other two are in Vietnam, and one is in Saigon Sports City. And again, for this project, we hope to build a sustainable as well as together with the people's livelihood and have a smooth integration. On this slide, you can see that this is Keppel Bay. For Keppel Bay, through various different systems, including the lighting system, a new wind system, the building platform, because sustainable energy, etc. And we have been able to reduce our EUI from about 60% to about 30%. And going forward, we will try our best to further reduce this EUI efficiency. And this is a building that is of 20 years of a history. And starting from 2018, we have been able to continue to reduce its energy consumption. And every year we'll continue and strive to further reduce this. A lot of companies actually, because of this excellent retrofitting, and they moved into this office building. This is another slide to share with you. We have different solutions. The first one is our first Green Mark Platinum commercial building projects. And in the meantime, not only looking at net zero infrastructure, we also look at for our customers. They come here, not only that they need to meet their ESG targets. In the meantime, we also need to look at how we can have various sustainable plans and to help our tenants to realize sustainable usage. As I mentioned in the beginning, we come from the SUR department of uh, Keppel, and what do we do exactly? Our department, we are ensuring the sustainable urban renewal of a city. And you can see that the last one, we have about 9,200 tons. What does this mean? I asked Jason. It means that every year, and basically it's reducing the carbon emission of coming out of 3,400 small vehicles. So this is the carbon emission that we have been able to cut at 9,200 tons. And basically, in cities, a lot of these buildings are old buildings. And in the meantime, we are also trying to build new buildings. Apart from that, when we do the building retrofitting, and we want to ensure that there is a 20 to 30% energy saving and to enjoy this energy saving experience. On this slide, you can see that we have, for instance, increasing the revenue and cost down, the empowerment of technology. In the meantime, we also pay attention to sustainable asset operations as well as low carbon companies' solutions. So these are overall plans. Meantime, we have established sustainable packages and the solutions. In addition, we continue to quantify the specific indicators such as the energy saving rate and carbon emission saving rate. And for instance, for the various parts of the building, and we have a very specific indicators such as for instance, the energy consumption, etc. So when you hear about different solutions, we look at them and to meet the targets of the investors, and this is what we strive to do. Because we invested in the early days, we also participated in the construction, the operation. So we want to make sure that we can talk the talk and walk the walk. And in the end of the day, we hope to provide the investors with the right return that they are looking for. We also have a green leasing under our business portfolio, such as the classification of different garbage. And in the meantime, we also have green credits from the residents and to provide different green operations. So this is for the whole building, and we have been able to realize, for instance, a smart operation and super central control, etc. Very quickly, looking at this slide, not only that we talk about construction itself in terms of the building of the venue, the digital solution and relevant facilities, co-sharing space, flexible working space solutions, as well as social capital and the satisfaction of their employees, etc. So those are the areas that we try and build a sustainable working space for the whole building. And we look at this, for instance, to provide our tenants with a one-stop service. This is Keppel in Singapore, and this is a new building that's about to be launched to the public next year. And this is a building that we have newly built in 2021, and this will be open to the public next year. You can see that these are all these different sustainability factors that we have met. And in the middle of the building, there's also a swimming pool. And you could try swimming in between the buildings. And in the meantime, there are bars, and you can work whilst enjoying a splash. And in the meantime, you can also bring your pets with you. Very quickly, this is in Jing'an in Shanghai for Keppel. And in Shanghai, this is a building that's going to open next year. In terms of the certification, we have achieved the platinum certification from WELL. In the meantime, for Remark as well as Singapore's Mark Remarks certification. So in total, 14 certification. In the meantime, we also have various different management technologies to help us realize low carbon targets. In terms of EUI, it is 84. This is about the public building in Shanghai, and roughly we have been able to bring down the benchmarking average by 26%.
So through digitalization and adoption of smart technologies, we can realize a 20% reduction of manpower. Thank you so much for listening. And this is the AI of Mid Journey. And this is the picture you will be able to see when we really create a low carbon and sustainable environment. Thank you so much for listening. Let's thank Mr. Yu again for that sharing. And we have learned a lot from your practices. We all would like to deliver these sustainable targets. There are many ways for us to achieve these targets. And coming next, we will share on circular economy. So we will now have Associate Director, Head of Digital Technology Service at Arab, Desmond Hall, and he will share with us circular economy in the built environment. And also the Director, Head of Global Circular Economy Service from Arab, Martin Pauly, also will bring us some sharing through a video. Let's welcome. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to share with you on this particular topic. Arab is a consultant to COP28 for the United Nations, and we attach great importance to the topic of circular economy. And we have invited today the leader, global leader of circular economy at Arab, Martin Pauly. He's the head for the Global Circular Economy Service at Arab, and he has a video to share with us his thoughts.
Hello, everyone. My name is Martin Pauly. I'm a director at Arab, and I lead our global circular economy services. Arab has prioritized the circular economy as one of 6 principles to help achieving the 1.5-degree world. This implies for us that we start adopting the principles of the circular economy in the built environment at scale. Why is it important? Because at the moment we see a very clear shift towards the embodied carbon of materials and resources. And we are convinced that we can only bring down and reduce those embodied carbon by adopting the principles of the circular economy. Looking at Europe, there's a very strong policy environment. The European Green Deal is essentially an instrument that will help for the next 20 years scale up the adoption. And taking a global look at other regions, we see that countries like China, Australia, regions like the Americas region or UK are also starting to adopt the principles in the built environment. How do we do that? We are the global knowledge partner of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is the globally largest think tank for circular economy. And we have developed or co-developed what we call the Circular Buildings Toolkit. And as part of that toolkit, we have come up with a framework that helps our clients and partners, architects, planners, designers, investors, to translate the principles into practice. The first hierarchy of a circular built environment is to avoid building new, which implies to focus on what's existing out there, focus on retrofit and reusing buildings and assets. The second hierarchy is to optimize buildings and assets for long-term value, which implies that we make our building more adaptive to changing uses, that we make them more durable and ensure that the materials can be kept at the highest possible value throughout many life cycles. The third principle is that we use materials more efficiently. So we ideally can reduce the material use by 30%. And the fourth principle is that we avoid hazardous materials. So we have global teams at Arab that use the toolkit together with our partners, and day to day develop innovative designs and use the principles of the circular economy as a framework for innovation and for decarbonization. This implies for us that we also work together with the supply side, and we create a demand at the same time. And accelerating speed and creating those lighthouse projects is something that we can only do with our strongest partners and clients. And this will then ideally unlock wider effects in the respective supply chain. And by that, we can make sure that we meet the 1.5 degree targets in 2050.
Martin Polly 也说到我们
Martin Polly mentioned how we can achieve and follow these four principles of circular economy and circular buildings. And today I would like to introduce to you what is a circular economy, circular building. I also would share with you a use case and showcasing how we do the feasibility study for a client in China, and also how we implement the whole concept in this project. And this is a very easy slide, and it tells you what is a circular economy. So usually it's a linear economy, it comes to an end. However, with the circular economy, the materials will be recycled and reused, and it will continue to circle around. And that is how we can really achieve the low carbon and zero carbon targets. In the building sector, what will be the driving forces, to build the circular economy? Dr. Lee has already shared with us some of the changes on the policies and standards, etc. Actually, on a global level, and also and within UN, and also within China, with the 14th five-year plan, there is a circular economy development plan. It mentions that by 2025, the comprehensive utilization rate of building garbage should reach to 60%. So we need to think about how to recycle and reuse the building garbage. And this is very important because all these architects and practitioners need to start thinking how we can recycle, reuse these building waste. Also, there is the market requirement. For example, the China Green Building Certification, as well as the LEED certification, both of them would include the use of recyclable material, reuse of historical buildings, and building retrofitting. These etc. will all help you to gain extra points. And these are all the driving forces for us to build a circular economy and buildings. On this slide, it shows us the whole process or the life cycle of the building and this industry, from design to sourcing to manufacturing, logistics, and sales and use and resource sharing. In this process, we can see different steps. And throughout this life cycle, there are so many different steps that we can incorporate circular economy aspects. For example, we can use a circular design, which I will share a case on in a minute. There are a lot of materials that can be recycled, reused, and throughout operation, we can also consider using different recycle reuse considerations for us to achieve circular economy targets. I try to use one sentence to define what is circular building. Circular building is to use as less materials and as environmentally friendly as possible materials and more efficient design so that the buildings can last longer. And also, when it comes to the end of the life cycle, the buildings can be disassembled and the materials can be recycled and reused and going into the next life cycle. This is very simple definition of circular buildings. When we look at a circular building, it's like an onion structure, layer by layer. First of all, there is the site, and then there's structure, the skin, the services, space plan, and also stuff, the interior decoration. For different layer, we can achieve a circular building. There are six layers, and they all have different life cycles. And for different life cycles, we have different circular strategy. Take a structure, for example. Structure is around for much longer time, maybe 50 years or even 100 years. So when we design, we need to make sure that the structure can have long a life cycle as possible, and to avoid the maintenance and repair work. And also for the stuff, this layer, usually the life cycle is much shorter because the demands in the market changes very quickly. So for stuff, we would like to build it as flexible as possible. So when demands and needs change, the stuff can be changed as well. For example, we're in this meeting room today, and when the office was designed, it has already taken into consideration this factor, flexibility. So maybe the layout of this meeting today, but it was different yesterday. So depending on the purpose of the space and the requirements for this space, we can offer this flexibility. So in our buildings, we need to take into consideration this, so we do not need to keep decorating and refurbishing the place constantly. Here, I would like to share with you a case on circular economy. And this is the CPS, Central Place Station. We call it the Taikwan. And this now has been converted into a center for heritage and arts. And this building, the Taikwan building, in Hong Kong, Arab has provided consulting on a various aspects, including the geotechnical, structural, and geotechnical, civil, sustainability, and facade and lighting, engineering, etc. So this is a very excellent case. This building has 170 years history, so a very ancient building. And in terms of, we started off the reuse of the original materials. These materials were already here 170 years ago. Now we have these structural engineers taking out these materials and do the testing and analysis. And we found that the strengths of these materials are very much similar to the steel rods we have today, reinforced steel. And then we proved that the entire floor plan, 80% of it can be reused. And we do not need to reinforce or rebuild these floor plans. Only these red boxes, and we need to have some very heavy mechanical equipments in these spaces, and only these two spaces require reinforcing and rebuilding.
In terms of the use of wood, you can also see that here we have two new buildings. In these two new buildings, at the moment, we have used about 56,000 different recycled wheels, and using these wheels, recycled wheels, and you can see that actually these recycled alloy wheels, and they are 100% recycled, and on the right-hand side, and you can also see that in terms of these bricks that we have used, and they are aluminum bricks, and they have been specially treated. Internally, we try our best to keep the original structure. For instance, some of them, they were arched shapes, and we tried our best to use steel to further enhance and strengthen the structure of the building, and to try and reduce the impact on the building as much as possible. And on the right hand side, you can also see that for some of these railings, and they were actually empty inside. So we tried to put in different materials, and such as mortar, and to try and fill in the empty railings, and to further strengthen such building structure. After looking at this specific case, I would also like to talk to you about for ARUP and for ARP, and how do we actually help with our clients, and in terms of the recycled and circular construction. This is a very new concept. And we can also see that in Hangzhou recently, we have a workshop with our building owner, and we sit down with them and to actually look at some of their circular targets. Second, as Martin Poe has introduced, and he has talked to you about our global partners of ARP, and we have four principles, 10 strategies, as well as many different actions with many cases studies. So based on these strategies, and we are working with our clients and to see what strategies we have. And thirdly, after the workshop, and we will actually have a ranking of different job priorities. Finally, we would devise an overall design solution for the whole circular building. And this is what Martin had introduced to you in terms of globally speaking with many of our global partners, and building this design framework. So you can see these are our four principles. For instance, build nothing, build for long-term value, build efficiently, and build with the right materials. So those are the very important principles for us, and we hope to strive these. And for instance, using low carbon materials. If you have any information that you cannot really remember, that's also fine. And this you can go to our website. Actually, this is for free for the public, and you can go to this website to follow this link, and you can see our four principles, 10 strategies, and 50 actions. And for each of the specific strategy, we have specific case studies to share with the readers. And this is a very important and helpful tool to help us to understand and how to realize circular design. On this slide is a very good example. As I have said, in mainland China, we also have conducted a feasibility study on this. Number one, based on this project, and in terms of, for instance, the design of internally, the structure, etc., and to establish, for instance, some strategies for circular economy. And secondly, we will ask the project owners as well as stakeholders, for instance, contractors, subcontractors, and design consultancy firms to vote together on this based on our 50 actions and which are the ones that they have actually been able to perform. And in the meantime, we also look at some of the impacts and, for instance, how much value this strategy has brought for the project, as well as feasibility, and to rank this. And for ARP ourselves, we also have some objective standard, for instance, feasibility, recommendation, progress, and cost, etc., and to give a score. And based on the different score, we will, at the end of the day, provide some recommendations to the project owners. So this again is very important. After the workshop, we have collected 50 very important recommendations as well as the voting scores. And based on the different voting scores, we have selected the 21 top priorities and to provide to the project owners. In addition, we also have, for instance, some recommendations that are hard to achieve and we would not recommend to the project owners. Finally, I'd like to talk about the relationship between circular buildings and carbon. We often say that carbon neutral as well as dual carbon, etc. And to really achieve a carbon zero is very difficult. So for circular construction, what we do is that we try our best to reduce carbon emission. In the meantime, for ARP, we also have some digital platforms to help everyone and to find out about, for instance, how much carbon has been reduced and to provide to the project owners for their reference. In terms of carbon reduction, and we can see that recently we are also working with our partners and to work on this certification framework and following circular building framework. And in this framework, basically, we can also look at it one layer by layer and to really help achieve the overall carbon targets, and in addition to guide them to realize their carbon targets for each of these layers. Finally, I would also like to say that for circular construction, it is not only for carbon reduction. In the meantime, it is also for our whole life cycle. We can add on the asset value, and in addition, outside of the life cycle, and we can further add and further increase the value. And for all of these materials, they cannot go to waste. And for all of these materials, for instance, some of them could be reduced and it could be reused. In the meantime, we can also improve our cost. Money for value, and for instance, our cost efficiency. The times, for instance, we have this concept such as SaaS, service as a product, and not every product could needed to be purchased. You can actually go and borrow them and lease them. And finally, we can also attract more tenants as well as international tenants who, for instance, they are working with us in Australia, and they also hope that they can have this circular economy concept and to help them to further expand and establish a good reputation. For instance, very important brands such as Louis Vuitton, and finally to improve the ESG performance of companies. For in terms of circular economy, we also have many different publishing materials. You can scan the QR code and help us to and help you to understand more about our publishing concept for circular economy. Thank you. Okay, great. Let's thank Desmond again as well as Martin Pauling, who is supporting us online. So, having heard to all of our experts and their excellent presentation, so we're now going into the panel discussion for circular economy. And whilst we are reorganizing the venue, and please allow me to very quickly introduce to you about our facilitator for this panel discussion. We have Ms. Wang Lingfei, Director from ARP, and we have the following guests. Dr. Xiaoping Li, Vice Director from Department of Science, Technology and Standards from CABR, and Mr. Wang Zhisheng, Director, Sustainability Facility Service from Land, and Ms. Chen Dandan, Chief of MSIN, and Mr. Jason Chen, Senior Engineer from ARP. And let's welcome our speakers and the facilitator. Please take your seat accordingly as what is reflected here on the screen.
好的，再次感谢。
Okay, great. I would like to thank all our audience who are participating with us in this session. We are very happy and delighted today because circular economy with the sustainable development is actually very in line with each other, and they both are looking for a harmonious coexistence of human being and the nature environment. And basically, this is talking about a whole system of this economic development as well as the nature existence. And we have four guests with us today to discuss about this topic. And just now, Dr. Li also talked to us about sustainable development as well as some of the sectors that our government has. And the circular economy has developed for many years outside of China. And for ARP, we have also participated in this. 14th five-year plan has already been in place for half of its time. And in the 14th five-year plan, actually, it has also put forward a requirement for circular economy and going forward for construction sector. And what are the requirements of circular economy for our whole sector of construction? Thank you, Dr. Li, please. Well, just now, very quickly, I gave you a presentation on the standards, and actually I've learned something and for the circular buildings. So this is a new concept. And in terms of the circular economy, how this can be implemented in the construction field. I have truly learned quite a lot today, and actually for circular economy in a lot of our standard setting in China, it has already been fully integrated. We talked about, for instance, where there is land, material to be recycled and basically in a certain way, and they have all been incorporated to our system. In addition, for carbon zero constructions as well as carbon emission, we can see that for instance, the whole carbon audit, and this is very important. And they have also considered about the recycled usage of material. I have also listened to everyone, and at the moment for recycled usage, and this is a very systematic content, basically from a concept perspective, and we are already moving towards this direction going forward. For instance, in terms of the support for the economy, etc. And this is something that will be included in our national policies. Just now, as we have heard from 2006 and to 2019, and the speed of the standard updating is in line with the development of our company. So starting from a concept and to the maturing of a technology, because for a standard, of course, once the technology are mature, but we move on to the standard setting. So this is a development from my perspective. good way of looking at this. And going forward, it's also possible that it can be included in the national standard. And from our work, as we have talked about, in a lot of domestic and international projects, combining with our current common standard. And for instance, this is something that's the bottom standard. In the meantime, we also have an association level of standards. We are also encouraging some of the enterprise level standards. And from our work perspective, for instance, we can look at whether there are any unified enterprise standard and try and start this work first.
And on the other hand, for circular building, there are 6 layers. I may not remember 100% correct, but it has 6 layers. So you want to maybe start from certain layers. For example, the staff layer, and then moving on to the other layers step by step. And as we are rolling out this approach, and then I think it will be widely recognized and received by the public. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you so much, Dr. Li. You can see that the national standards already are incorporating circular economy, and we hope that as these standards become more detailed, the technologies used for circular economy will be able to be better quantified. We know that the circular economy is very much related to the full life cycle of buildings, in which the operation is a very important part. Director Wang is very experienced in the operation part, and from the Global Financial Center and many other projects. So we're very honored that we have Mr. Wang here today to share with us his thoughts on circular economy, and also how we can use operation to better deliver and reach our low carbon and energy saving targets. And thank you so much. It's a great pleasure for me to have these discussions with you on circular economy. For circular economy, there are 2 key factors. The first one is efficient energy use and also reduction of waste. These are the 2 most important factors. Actually, circular economy in combination with building, I think is the way forward. At Keppel, Mr. Yu has already introduced. At Keppel, we are committed to sustainability in Singapore, China, and in Southeast Asia regions. We prioritize sustainable development for our buildings and projects. And for the operation of buildings and sustainable development of buildings, I think there are 2 areas that are most important. The first one is we need to cover the full life cycle of the buildings when we do the operation. We know that in mainland China, from design and construction and operation, there are many different players involved in this whole life cycle. So from design, construction, and to operation and across the life cycle, of course, the project owner is responsible, from the design and to the construction to making sure the execution implementation of all these energy saving and carbon reduction concepts, making sure we reach the targets, and that's very important. But actually, there are 3 steps that we have to go through. And the first step, some of the green and low carbon technologies need to be adopted in the buildings. For example, this high efficient server room and also the smart lighting and efficient blowers and waste rubbish recycle and disposal. These kind of technologies should be adopted in the buildings, but these technologies may not be 100% suitable for the buildings, but we have to choose the right ones. And the second one is a digitalization technology. We need to build the digital platforms so that all the low carbon green equipments can be installed, and we can collect all these information and data so that we can have a smart operation, smart control. And thirdly, we need to use data to know better about the operation. For a lot of the projects, there are so many different platforms and visualizations, but they end up sitting there and with nobody using them. But very importantly, we need to be able to use these platforms to do some analytics and to identify areas for improvement. For example, for the air conditioners, how should we operate and use these ACs in different seasons? And should we use air ventilation system purely, or should we use the free cooling? There are many different operation ways which we will need data to inform us for better decision making. And thirdly, we need the property surveys and facility management teams to jointly work together to execute our operation strategies and to make sure that all these energy saving and carbon reduction initiatives are executed. And energy saving and carbon reduction initiatives need to be actually executed in these projects. And lastly, we also need to look from the perspective of asset value, because we need to get the right return, so that the property or asset owners will be motivated to do all this. For example, at Capo, for each project and a sustainable approach, we will quantify these indicators. For example, how much we're investing, what is the energy reduction and efficiency ratio, and with this technology adoption, how much cost will be brought down. And these are very important. We also need to evaluate how much value these technologies can create or add for these assets. For example, our net revenue minus our operation cost and also the cap rate. We use these indicators to evaluate. If we can save, for example, 1 million in energy use, then that means that our operation cost will be brought down by 1 million, and then we will work out the cap rate, and then we can probably create maybe 25 million worth of value increase for those projects in Beijing and Shanghai. When we have this transparency, and then we will get the recognition and approval from the project owners, and so that we can really make sure that our projects and buildings are economical and also sustainable. Thank you so much, Mr. Wang, for sharing your experiences. You summarized there are 4 measures that can be taken and which are very useful. And he mentioned one of those 4 is the digitalization. At the Arab, more than a decade ago, we were already very much involved in the circular economy work. And Mr. Chen Zhixiang is the TSSD platform head for our region here. So I would like to ask Jason how you use this platform to analyze circular economy. So Jason, what is your view on this? Thank you. For the sake of time, I will not be able to share too many details. Actually, A circular building may be a new term, but this idea is nothing new to us. These four principles, 10 strategies. Um, at the end of the day, what you're doing is first to reduce waste, and second, you want to improve the recycle reuse rate of the materials, not just to use less, but also how you can recycle, reuse these materials. And thirdly, it goes beyond low carbon, it goes beyond materials, and it's also about digitalization. So all these designs we have, we are not just going to go low carbon or meet certain targets, but we need to reshape the nature. For example, in the old days, there was no concrete or steel bars. Nobody was thinking about sustainability because it was not an issue back then. So these are the three key things. And TSTD, these four letters, I will explain first. What are the TSED? Total Sustainable and Digital Design. In Chinese, three words: integrated, sustainable, and digital. Our team combines all these three words, and that's what we do. So TSTD and circular buildings, how they're related. There are three keywords here. It's well-rounded, comprehensive. If it is a circular building, it needs to be circular well-roundedly. And Desmond Ho just talked about the 6 layers. Each building is composed of 6 layers. And how can we judge if a building is circular? Just from one layer or one measure or dimension is not possible. Just one example, let's talk about PV, solar panels. And but we have never thought about if these solar panels themselves would emit a lot of carbon. And also, these panels require maintenance and repair and disposal. What happens after that? So when we consider circular buildings, then you need to not only consider how to be more sustainable in the operation stage, you want to look at the whole perspective of the entire life cycle. And that means we need to put in more effort to produce or design or develop a more recyclable, reusable solar panels instead of just increasing the numbers of solar panels we use. So we need to adopt a multidimensional approach. TSDT is a total integrated, and our team has different areas of expertise, and we would like to incorporate all these know-how and expertise into the total consideration. The second keyword is sustainable. And I think we need to be forward-looking. Circular economy, circular buildings are all forward-looking. If we are only looking at zero carbon or low carbon, then that's just the target we have ahead of us. But if we look forward, adopt a forward-looking approach, at the end of the day, we don't want to waste any resources, and we want to be able to recycle and reuse all materials. So how can we achieve that? We need to be aware or realize this as early as possible, not just at the seminar today, but with all the projects we have, our design team and the project owner, we all need to be forward-looking. If we just look a few years down the road, let's say 5 or 10 years, and circular building is not important because circular economy or circular building goes beyond 5 to 10 years. But we need to be looking into 10 or 20 or 50 or even 100 years down the road, and then circular building will be of paramount importance. And that is why we set up this team in the very first place, because we want to incorporate sustainability into building designs.
达到目标就不是这么一个过程，其实我们更想的一个
It's not that it's just a simple quantifying process, and we hope that from quantifying actually to the later on operation and the dismantlement, we would like that to be an integrated process, and for all of these concepts could be integrated together. And that's point 2. Point 3. This is also something for our digital team and the core and the foundation of our team's establishment. For this point, actually, the key is about being scientific, because we talked about forward-looking, we talked about being comprehensive. At the end of the day, how do we actually implement circular and recycled building, and for instance, which portion are truly recycled, and which strategies are fully implementable and can be actually realized, for instance, the true recycling or circular economy. And we had heard from our experts about the different standards for TSTD in terms of our platform, and for all these various different strategies, how do we use a scientific way to really showcase that in a quantifiable fashion. And it is not really about reducing certain materials. It's about how much materials for each of the steps can be reduced, and how much of them can be recycled. So this is also about very important for digitalization. Then for our design, how do we also turn that into an asset? So this is slightly different from what we have heard. For instance, if we are designing a building after our design, whether it is the design plan or whether it is the final design, and it will be passed on. So when we pass on, and perhaps it's relying on, for instance, some models and some print and some drawings, but really containing this information. For circular building, it is really about how this circular design and how this material, we can turn those into assets. And for instance, a design that I have used, for instance, for the steel and concrete and all the materials, we call them material passports, and they have their own ID, and everybody has their own, for instance, own ID. And whilst we are building in the building process, and you know that this material has its own ID, and you can track it down. So only by doing so, for instance, in terms of the change of this concept, and at the moment, I think that that's what can help us with our work. And this is my understanding of TSDD, and how, for instance, not only that from a concept design, but also how to finally make sure that it can be implemented. Thank you, Jason. And I feel that we have a very clear speakers with a great logic, and you have given us a great summary points. So we have heard about total design, and the second, sustainability. It's about the development is about forward looking, and thirdly is digital. A very important part of the digital is about quantifiability. So all of these are great points for us to reference to. You have also talked about when these points come into our platform, what are they? They are the materials. So I believe that a lot of our colleagues in this industry, and when we carry out, for instance, the operation management, where do these materials come from? What are the parameters and how do we look at different classification and management, etc. So we're very delighted that we have invited Ms. Chen Dandan from MSIN and to talk to us about what they do at MSIN. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chen Dandan from MSIN, and I'm very delighted to be invited by ARP to participate in this session. I have heard from Dr. Li as well as from Mr. Wang and the sharing from TEPO. What we have heard the most is about carbon zero building, about how to operate, how to reduce carbon emission. And for MSIN, and what we are looking at would be the hidden carbon in construction. And at the moment, we have all these different backgrounds of carbon reduction. And actually, for the hidden carbon, they have already exceeded half of the life cycles of carbon. And this is a huge number. And whilst we are controlling the whole life cycle of carbon reductions, and hidden carbon is an area that we really need to consider. The reason why we don't really talk about this much is because it is about many different steps. For instance, in terms of R&D, etc. But as a matter of fact, I have a specific number from Shanghai, and in a super city such as Shanghai, the construction waste has already accounted for more than 50% of the waste in Shanghai. And this is a huge number. And for construction, actually, after dismantlement, in terms of 90% or even 90% of its value has disappeared. For instance, for buildings renovation, you had used about a few thousand of RMB to spend on renovation, and when you dismantle this, they all go to waste, and you have to pay other people money to come and dismantle this for you. This is also other different industries. And this is why we need to talk about the construction economy. And we have also heard this from investments talk. So for MSIN, for last year, together with ARP as well as Tongji University, we had worked on some of the carbon reduction research, looking at the whole life cycle and how we would be able to work on the carbon reduction. And for instance, when we design this for construction, it has different structure. And for instance, for different selection of materials and for different functions, they have different materials, and we hope that it can be durable. But if it is, for instance, a furniture, we want to change it all the time. And for this type of material, we would like to choose materials that are biodegradable or can be replaced easily or recycled. So this is something that we need to consider at the time of design. And for the project owner, for the designers, they need to have this concept and to think about it. So for the whole building process, for instance, with the digitalization tools, and in the digitalization process to reduce waste. In the meantime, for some of the building and the final finished product, etc. And when we come to the dismantled stage, and we hope that it can be classified such as all the other waste. For instance, such as a plastic bottle and industrial wastewater, etc. And you would really need to give it a name or a certain category so that we can recycle it. For instance, if it's a glass, and let's try and not mix glass with some of the other materials that have gone through many different processes of manufacturing. So perhaps it was easy to use it during the renovation, but after the usage, it would be difficult to recycle these multi-stage processed materials. And about how to recycle, and this is really about the material side, the design side, etc., working together. And for MC, and we are working very hard on the research and promotion of recycled materials. And basically, we want to build a better world. We want all these good materials to be seen. And therefore, for MC, we are a very good partner of art. And just now, Dr. Lee has also mentioned about this. This is a huge market, and we also have a very good entry point. Therefore, for instance, in terms of renovation or in a project that is not very big, and to continue to promote, for instance, to continue to promote this concept. And right now we are working on the retrofitting of a building. We have used biomaterials, recycled materials on this building. In this process, apart from our R&D institute, as well as third-party testing institute, they are also helping us to give us more credibility and give the project owners a better environment. We are building a better house, better houses. And what are better houses? They are more healthy, they are safer, and they are more environmentally friendly. Thank you, everyone, for your sharing today. And I believe that your views would be very meaningful to the development of a circular economy. I would also like to thank all the audience for participating in our session today. And we hope that we would be able to further expand and achieve some great new heights in our path, looking for circular economy and achieving the targets. Thank you, moderator, for your hosting. And in addition, not only that, you have helped us to understand about circular economy, the topic, but also we have seen that the potential of circular economy going forward. So this is the end of our roundtable discussion, and we now come to the last session of today's event, which is for ARP together with our partner and have a MOU signing. And whilst we are tidying up this venue, and let's talk about the background. And for ARP, we are a company looking at promoting of sustainable development and building green and low carbon projects for for national testing and the national standard. This is the end of this session, and thank you very much.